Mike Wolfe scores rare $100,000 flying Merkle motorcycle in epic American Pickers deal. Hello everyone. My name is Emma. Welcome to my channel. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like. Up in the most recent episode of American Pickers, Mike Wolfe earns a $100,000 flying Merkle motorcycle rather than merely winning it. Jersey John Saleh and Wolfe travel to Rhode Island to see the renowned collector Dick Shappy. Shappy, who has spent decades conserving history rather than reselling it for financial gain, is well known for his painstakingly repaired vintage cars and motorcycles from before 1910. However, Shappy gives up one of his most valuable items, a almost unique flying Merkle, at a crucial point. However, the goal of this sale was to share history with a genuine admirer rather than to make money. One of the most well-known collectors in Rhode Island, Shappy has been collecting and restoring vintage cars for more than 20 years, according to the episode, How Much Time Wolfe Has Spent with Him. The picker explains that Shappy is one of the top purchasers in the industry and commends him for having a sharp eye. In fact, if Wolfe wants to sell an ancient car to someone who genuinely appreciates its value, he is among the first persons he contacts. It wouldn't take an expert to figure out that this collection, which includes antique Cadillac V16s and classic Duesenbergs, is a treasure trove. With all the cars he has accumulated over the years, Shappy's garage hardly has space. But each car is an expression of his skill and imagination. The vintage. Each car has been expertly restored with unparalleled attention and accuracy. Shappy states that he prefers to keep these machines in their most pristine state, with each knob and gear in its proper place, rather than giving them new life. Because these minor details can raise a car's worth by hundreds or even thousands of dollars, Shappy's attention to detail serves a purpose as well. Wolfe refers to Shappy's fantasy car as a prime illustration of his love for vintage automobiles. This customized car has the engine of a Curtiss JN from World War I. Shappy has centered the entire automobile around the Jenny airplane. He sees vintage car restoration as more than just a business. The collector honors his love of history in this way. Despite all of this, Wolfe remains more intrigued by the collection Shappy maintains at home because not everyone has easy access to it. The collector then leads the pickers to his home, where he keeps all of his motorcycles in what he refers to as the shop. The native of Rhode Island reveals that he entered the motorcycle industry more than 10 years ago, after dealing in luxury cars for years. The collection includes original paint, pre-1910 Indians, early Yales and vintage Harleys. The problem is that he had no intention of selling any of this. But in a particularly memorable scene, Wolfe takes away one of Shappy's most sought-after items, a flying Merkle with a 2-speed gearbox and a self-starter. There are only 2 or 3 more models of this specific bike left in the world, Shappy remarked. Wolfe was aware that Shappy's $100,000 price tag was justified by that, and the fact that the bike was still 75% original paint. Rather than engaging in negotiations, the picker consents to fulfill his seller's request and depart with one of the most renowned motorcycles in American history. The reason this agreement occurred is just as important as the deal itself. Wolfe and Shappy have a long-standing relationship, based on a sincere love of craftsmanship and tradition. For years, the picker has been coming to admire Shappy's collection without trying to close a transaction. As soon as the collectors met, it was clear that they respected one another. Nevertheless, the collector is persuaded to leave with a motorcycle that he was obviously very devoted to by Wolfe's capacity to understand, listen, and appreciate Shappy's work for what it is. The fact that Shappy never intended to sell the Merkle to a wealthy man ultimately prevented him from doing so. Shappy's commitment for conserving the past is evident as a vintage car aficionado, and Wolfe was the ideal recipient for this piece of history. The transaction demonstrates that the vintage automobile specialist does occasionally sell, but only to deserving buyers. As he puts the bike in his container, Wolfe says, "It's the right bike for me," and Shappy wholeheartedly concurs. The History Channel presently broadcasts American Pickers Season 27. One of those jaw-dropping, "Did that really happen?" deals that makes American Pickers legendary. If you thought Mike Wolfe had already hit peak rare collectible status, prepare to have your mind blown. Because he didn't just score a motorcycle, he plundered a hidden gem. A flying Merkle, yes, that flying Merkle, for an eye-watering 6-figure sum. And the backstory? It's straight out of pickup hunter lore. First, for those unfamiliar, flying Merkle motorcycles were built in the early 1900s, circa 1911 to 1915, by the Merkle Company of Milwaukee and Philadelphia. They combined ambitious engineering with elegant styling and lightweight frames. But production was limited, and many of the original units were lost to time, neglect, or scrap drives. That scarcity alone makes any surviving Merkle a prize, especially ones in decent condition or restorable state. Collectors treat them like unicorns. Because very few remain, the right flying Merkle can command astronomical sums. Tip-off. The hunt began with whispers of a long-forgotten barn, deep in rural territory, where a heritage motorcycle collection had been stored, neglected for decades. Discovery. While inspecting dusty frames, Mike glimpsed the distinctive engine case and exhaust routing of a Merkle, the kind of reveal that sends antique motorcycle nerds into orbit. Negotiation. The owner, clearly unaccustomed to dealing with high-end collectors, had a sky-high idea of what the bike was worth. Mike countered, backed by his years of experience, and after back-and-forth drama, deals threatened to collapse multiple times. The price. In a crescendo of tension and boldness, Mike laid down the money, $100,000, to bring that flying Merkle home. Yes, $100,000. For a motorcycle that, until very recently, hung silently in a barn forgotten by time. Big ticket.